words of Denise Levertov as we gather ourselves in worship. But we've only begun to love the earth. We've only begun to imagine the fullness of life. How could we tire of hope? So much is in bud. Surely our river cannot already be hastening to the sea of non-being. Surely it cannot drag in the silt all that is innocent. No, not yet. There is too much hurt that we have done that we cannot yet bear not to be forgiven. We have only begun to know the power that is in us if we would join our solitudes into a communion of struggle. So much is unfolding that must complete its gesture. So much is in bud. Please join with me now as we share the words of responsive invocation from the Nobel Prize-winning activist and visionary of our century, Wangari Maathai. A tree has roots in the soil, yet it reaches to the sky. It tells us that in order to aspire, we need to be grounded, and that no matter how high we go, it is from our roots that we draw sustenance. It is a reminder to all of us who have had success that we cannot forget where we came from. It magnifies that no matter how powerful we become or how many awards we receive, our power and strength depend upon the people. Those whose work remains unseen, who are the soil out of which we grow, the shoulders on which we stand. Indeed, it is so. Welcome to Fountain Street Church. I am Fred Wooden. I am one of 2 clergy here and one of 8 or 9 staff, all of whom together try to do the work that you ask us to do and help you to do the work that we must all together do to liberate our minds, to animate our souls, and to agitate the world that needs so much. I just want to observe that our hymn I chose today because it's an Irish tune, and it will be St. Patrick's Day this week. So for those of you who claim Irish blood, that would be me. But if you don't, you can adopt it for a day. But it is also, I should point out, that it is my custom, at least in this month of March, as we celebrate and honor women's history, to choose as many texts and musics and readings as I can from the wisdom of women. Lots of things happen all the time in Fountain Street Church, and your order of service is a great way to find out all about them. But we're here this morning in the midst of a cold day to find warmth in each other's company, under the bright sun, to be reminded of the powers of light and truth, and to be together, to take a pause and to be together in a world that so often wants us to be separate. This is Fountain Street Church. You belong here.
Speak to one another. 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 Of songs and of holy writings, of carols and anthems, sing ye and praise ye the Lord, sing ye and praise him. Of songs and of holy writings, of carols and anthems, sing ye and praise ye the Lord, sing ye and praise him. Speak to one another. 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 Sing of songs and of holy writings, of carols and anthems, of songs and of holy writings, of carols and anthems. Speak to one another, speak to one another, speak to one another, speak to one another, speak to one another. Of songs and of holy writings, of carols and anthems, sing ye and praise ye the Lord, sing ye and praise Him. Speak to one another, speak to one another, speak to one another, speak to one another, speak to one another.
I suppose it is the consequence of growing older that I tend to like things older than me. When I travel, I look for ruins, things that have fallen down. They give me courage. And when I do readings, they're almost always things that are older than me, sometimes very old. This season I have made the book of Psalms my if not my adversary, my partner in spiritual engagement. And I'm going to give you Psalm 27. It has some familiar words and some words that you may not have heard. And then I'll add some words more recent than the Psalms, but nonetheless old. God is my light and my help. Whom should I fear? God is the stronghold of my life. Whom should I dread? When evil people assail me to devour my flesh, it is they, my foes and my enemies, they who stumble and fall. Should an army besiege me, my heart would have no fear. Should war beset me, still I would be confident. One thing I ask of God, only that do I seek, to live in the house of God all the days of my life, to gaze upon the beauty of God, to frequent the temple. God will shelter me in God's pavilion on an evil day, grant me the protection of God's tent, and raise me high upon a rock. Now is my head high over my enemies round about. I sacrifice in God's tent with shouts of joy, singing and chanting. Hear, Holy One, when I cry aloud. Have mercy on me. Answer me. In your behalf, my heart says, seek my face. God, I seek your face. Do not hide your face from me. Do not thrust aside your servant in anger. You have ever been my help. Do not forsake me. Do not abandon me, my deliverer. Though my father and mother abandon me, God will take me in. Show me your way and lead me on a level path because of my foes. Do not subject me to the will of those who are my foes, the false witnesses and unjust accusers. Had I not the assurance that I would enjoy the goodness of God in the land of the living? Look to God. Be strong and of good courage. Harper Lee, in the words of Atticus Finch, uttered these or wrote these famous words. I'm sure many of you have heard them, if not read them. I wanted you to see what real courage is, instead of getting the idea that courage is a man with a gun in his hand. Oh, I heard a chuckle down there. How pertinent today. I'll start again, because it's worth hearing twice. I want you to see what real courage is, instead of getting the idea that courage is a man with a gun in his hand. I'm talking to you, Wayne LaPierre. It's when you know that you're licked before you begin, but you begin anyway, and see it through no matter what. Harper Lee. Audre Lorde, radical woman of color, lesbian, poet, professor, said, when I dare to be powerful, to use my strength in the service of my vision, it becomes less important whether I am afraid. And these poetic words from the late Maya Angelou. We, unaccustomed to courage, exiles from delight, live coiled in shells of loneliness until love leaves its high, holy temple and comes into our sight to liberate us into life. I'm going to say that one again because it's so powerful. We, unaccustomed to courage, exiles from delight, live coiled in shells of loneliness until love leaves its high, holy temple, comes into our sight to liberate us into life. There's a reason she's famous. That's a great tune that Marilyn was playing. You might have heard it up above. It's originally German. German. Schmüre dich, decorate my soul with gladness. And I like that because sometimes you're not really glad and you need help. I had a week like that. Nothing worked out. I was either delayed, defeated, distracted, whatever the word is. It was a frustrating week. And I mean that in kind of first world problems. You know that phrase? First world problems means you're stuck in traffic as opposed to begging for your food, okay? This doesn't mean it's not a problem, but perspective. So I had nothing but first world problems, but they were still eating at me. It was like every time I turned around, clish bang, and I just felt like I was being bruised by the world. And I'm bringing that in today. And like I'd like to be manly, I'm fine, everyone. I feel fine. Lying. And I think church should be a place where you don't have to feel fine. You come to be decorated by others. You don't have to come to display. There's a hymn in our hymn book. Actually, it's using one of my tunes, so I remember it. It says, "Though gathered here to celebrate, my spirit's burning low." And I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one who's had a frustrating week or a disappointing week. I know that at least one person was in and out of the hospital. I only know that by accident. And I know at least one person in this room has been either harmed or hurt or disappointed. And I think we should be a place where you can name that without making someone feel bad. So the point of a prayer is sometimes to give space for the bruises and the aches and the pains, the soft places, so that we can allow others to decorate us with our care. With that in mind, let's pray together. Hashem Adonai. Hallelujah. We praise you. But what does that mean? That we should raise some joyful noise even when we don't really mean it? Assume a virtue if you have it not, said Hamlet. But I don't want to pretend to be happy when I'm not. I want to be unhappy and have people say, that's all right. You're not alone. I've been there too, and maybe even today. Sometimes I think you up there, anywhere, nowhere, you're probably more useful as company on a bad day than as a show on Sunday. We walk through life one step at a time, sometimes dragging a foot, often tripping. And sometimes when things go really bad, we yell at you for making them that way. But what we're looking for is someone just to notice us when we're having a tough time. That the rough places should not be lonesome. That the defeats should not be entire. That somehow, even on bad days and in bad times, there's still something lovely out there. Help us. Help me. Help each other. I don't know how, but let's keep looking for a way to believe things can be good, even when they don't feel that way. Yes, our spirits sometimes burn low, but they're still burning. And though the smoke may be greater than the flame, the heat is nonetheless there. Oh, help to clear the smoke that we may see the flame. And remember, help us remember, that courage is not bravery, but endurance. Upon these things and all that besets the heart and wearies the soul, for all these things and all the blessings around them, we give ourselves now to that most genuine prayer found in the presence of silence. So be it, and amen. I'm going to get wonderful Robin Connell, who is also the host of our Jazz in the Sanctuary series, to share what I consider to be the most perfect love song ever written in the English language, and from which I derived my title. And you will give it, well, we'll see what it sounds like. I almost want to sing it with her. It's so beautiful. But you have the better voice. You have the better voice.
It's very clear our love is here to stay. Not for a year, but ever and a day. The radio and the telephone, the movies that we know may all just be passing fancies, and in time may go. But oh my dear, our love is here to stay. Forever we're going a long, long way. In time the Rockies may crumble, Gibraltar may tumble, they're only made of clay. But our love is here to stay. Gibraltar may tumble, they're only made of clay. But our love is here to stay. Our love is here, it's always here.
The problem with getting older, you get sentimental much more easily. No, it's not a problem. It's not even a problem. It's embarrassing. No, it's not even embarrassing. It's hard. The strength, the power of the heart can be overwhelming. So I'm going to retreat back into my cerebral self for a moment, get my composure back, as they do later. So let me warm up to this topic by running up to it from a distance. The longer I dwell on this whole book of Psalms thing, the more often I hear the same stuff over and over again. Geez, yeah, more than one psalm already has said, please God save me from this or that danger. This is not the first one where the poet says, I long to live in your house, and do all that kind of stuff. It's getting really redundant, if you ask me. And I can't help but wonder why so many similar poems are all packed into the editing is really lousy here. We should have an anthology, kind of best of the Psalms. But then it dawned on me that engaging a work of this size is a little bit like going on an archaeological dig. And you see them with their little feathery things, and they come up with one potsherd after another, and they all look exactly alike, but they treat them all like these reverent little people, and they are. Even in their similarity, there's something in them. And the cunning and the patient archaeologist will notice the difference between the most similar looking pieces of broken pottery. And as I thought about this, it occurred to me that's exactly what the Lenten season is about spiritually. It is looking at the dailiness of life, the similarity, not the difference, and inquiring about the details. Last week I said it is the shadow side of Advent. We love Advent banners, candles, faith, hope, love, and joy. And it's like a piece of paper. You can't have one side of it. There's another side. And I've always been attracted to Lent because I'm not a naturally cheerful person. And I want some legitimacy for those of us who deal with the other emotions and honor them. So we love faith, but how can you have faith if you haven't wrestled with doubt? Otherwise, it's pretty cheap faith. How can you have hope if you've never faced despair in a significant way? How can you claim to love if you've never felt or been delivered of hate? And how can you say you understand joy if you've not had woe in equal measure? I quoted Ursula Le Guin last week, a wonderful fantasy writer, just died recently. One thing I didn't mention last week that I kept for this week is she observed that when you light a candle, you also cast a shadow. We cannot have one without the other. And a wholesome, fully three-dimensional faith will allow for the shadows as well as the light, for the doubt as well as the faith. You see where I'm going? And Lent is when I ask you to go to that other side, which we don't like, but is necessary for the fully three-dimensional, the fully real experience of being spiritual in this world. So as I read this psalm, and I noticed at the very end, the word that got me, and it was all about it, said, "Be strong and of good courage." I am intrigued by this word. I am daunted by this word because it stands out to me as someone who in youth, as a boy, felt very much like a coward all the time. I ducked. I did not take it on the chin. I avoided. I did not encounter. And I still wrestle with that fearsome part of me, fearful part of me that wants not to be hurt. So courage is important to me. It's one of my life struggles. But when I say courage, I mean what I said in the prayer a few moments ago. I do not mean bravery, standing up to physical danger. That I don't have. I've discovered that courage is not standing in front of bullets. That's just foolishness. Courage is hanging on. I'm going to insert a story that's not in my text because sometimes the Spirit tells me to go to a place I didn't plan to go. So back when I was about 11, 12, or 13, I'm walking home from high school, middle school, whatever it was, with a friend and a friend of a friend who was being very mean-spirited. And I said something mean back to him. You know, as boys want to kind of do this kind of thing. And he hauled off and socked me right in the eye. And I thought instantaneously I could hit him back, but he's stronger. And I'll get 2 hits, won't I? It's amazing how fast your brain works in an emergency. But my reaction then was not to hit back. So what was my reaction? I laughed. He had no answer to that. And left. That's courage. To take what life gives you and keep going. And the question is, where do we find courage? There are some who seem to be naturally that way. I know I am not. And banking on the fact that some others of you out there are not naturally courageous or brave, I'm going to lead you through some ways you can think about courage. Now, I'm going to be the teacher for a few moments. And because it is Women's History Month, and because women are courageous creatures in ways that men will never get, I'm going to quote some women that inspired me this week as I tried to put this message together. Who here besides me and a few other people of Medicare-able ages remembers Maggie Kuhn, founder of the Gray Panthers? Like Mother Jones of the labor movement, she got wilder and woollier the older she got. Now, Mother Jones, you might remember, who worked in West Virginia, famously said, "Pray for the dead, but work like hell for the living." Good advice under all circumstances. And Maggie Kuhn kind of picked up on that in her way. She said, "Being 65 became a crossroads. We have nothing to lose, and so we can raise hell. Old age is an excellent time for outrage." Think about it. What do we have to prove at this age, people? We can lose all day and be no worse off than we were the day before. Think of the terror that would strike our government if every old person looked at it square in the eye. When I read this from Maggie Kuhn, I was remembering from my youth Janis Joplin singing about me and Bobby McGee. Freedom's just another word for nothing less left to lose. When you get older, you have less and less to lose, so you might as well throw it all in the mix. Old women, free of the expectations of patriarchy, have very little to lose. They are teachers of courage, and best avoided if they're coming towards you. I also ran into the woman we read earlier, Wangari Maathai. If you don't know her, she is a Nobel-winning Kenyan activist. She died of ovarian cancer in 2011. And for her, that experience of being lifted into activism came when she realized that women's justice was tied to economic justice, was tied to environmental justice, and you could not pluck one without damaging the other. She said, we are called to assist the earth to heal her wounds and in the process to heal our own. What a great insight that is. If we only heal ourselves and not the world around us, we are not healed at all. She goes on, indeed, to embrace the whole of creation and all of its diversity, beauty, and wonder, to seek sustainable development, democracy, and peace are indivisible. Think about that. Sustainable development, democracy, and peace are indivisible. We have to work on them all. She was moved to courage because not to act was to be complicit in the continuation of injustice. Have we not all been in a moment where we interrupted someone about to hit somebody else or do some harm because we knew if we didn't do something, we would be guilty ourselves? What would it take for all of us to think, my God, every time I use my automobile, I am still contributing to an unsustainable society? Anytime I allow a woman to be paid less or to be treated as less, I'm complicit in a patriarchy. Anytime I let anything bad happen, I am responsible. Now, we've honored men who felt the duty to defend their country. We lift up monuments to them left and right. But we don't do that for those who wish to save the land, to save our lives. I kept reading and ran into Lamak Gbowie. She is also a Nobel laureate. She is still alive, God save us. She's not even 50. And she created a women's movement over on the other side of Africa in Liberia. Now, if you don't know, Liberia has been a messy country for a very long time. And she was tired of it, tired of the men ruining the country all the time. And somewhat like the Madres de la Plaza in Argentina 20 years ago, she gathered the women of all faiths to pray together in public for peace. It's something of a show, but in a nation where Muslims and Christians and animists don't ordinarily get together, to find that the women said, we as women will pray together for our country was notable. And they went on to pray and then to have sit-ins, and then my favorite thing, they went on a sex strike. Yes, it didn't quite work, but it made an impact and it got attention. But why? Why did she do this, take these risks? Because as she wrote later, we are tired of war. We are tired of running. We are tired of begging for wheat. We are tired of our children being raped. We are now taking this stand to secure the future of our children because we believe as custodians of society, tomorrow our children will ask, Mama, what was your role during this crisis? Gbowie discovered that protecting one's own children is not enough. It's not even possible. And then, as I kept reading, I ran into a rising and wonderful author named Zadie Smith, the Anglo-Jamaican author of that remarkable debut novel, White Teeth. She also is an essayist. She's younger yet than anyone else and far younger than me. And she talked about courage in a different way. She said, the world does not deliver meaning to you. You have to make it meaningful and decide what you want and need and must do. It's a tough, unimaginably lonely and complicated way to be in the world, but that's the deal. You can't live by slogans, dead ideas, cliches, or national flags. How many people do we know, including ourselves, that rely upon the slogans, the ideologies, the governments, the powers and principalities to tell us who we are? Courage is when you can no longer accept that assigned identity and decide to be a person. She writes elsewhere, "You are never stronger than when you land on the other side of despair." Excuse me. I'm still looking to get to that spot, but I'm sure she's right. That you're never stronger than when you no longer stand with despair. And then, this is what happens all week long. I read, trying to find truth way back. So far back that women were either married to men or to God. There was a woman named Hildegard of Bingen. She was the daughter of a minor noble who was put in a convent very early in her life and experienced spiritual visions. And one can say she was shut away, but no, she was liberated, because only in a monastery was she able to express in words that we will sing later, in ideas that she wrote. She was a philosopher, published. She was an abbess who ran a community of women that owned property and actually used it. She was a composer. She was a visionary. And she said in words that we will sing later, "I am that great and fiery force, sparkling in everything that lives. I shine and glitter on the seas and burning sun and moon and stars, for I am life." Would that we all could feel that kind of connection and enjoy that kind of courage. All of these voices from 3 continents and different centuries tell us that courage comes from a variety of places. But the one place it doesn't come from really is within yourself. You may find it there, but that's not where it comes from. And that's when I went back to the psalm. Because when I looked at it, it was not like, "Oh God, give me strength to endure this stuff." The psalmist is saying, "You, God, need to trust in me. I need to know you are on my side." So it isn't about believing in God. The psalmist wants God to believe in the psalmist. Remember the words, "Do not forsake me. Though my father and mother abandon me, you will take me in." Courage. Courage comes from a confidence that something beyond you is with you, for you, of you, to you. Whatever preposition works, there's something out there that gives you a reason to be courageous. Now, this is hard for we Americans because we like nothing more than the self-made man. The pioneer knocking down trees, the cowboy out on the range, the inventor creating all sorts of marvelous things, and of course, all the entrepreneurs who have turned high technology into many billions of dollars. These are the quintessential Americans, aren't they? Self-reliant, as Ralph Waldo Emerson put it. And of course, we're told that the most attractive thing about a man is his self-confidence. Trust your instincts, we're told. Go with your gut. Follow your bliss. All of those things tell us that we find what we need wholly within ourselves, and I'm saying that is wrong, it's bunk, and it's bad. It's alluring, I know. But if I read the Psalms right, if I listen to all these women across time and place correctly, self-confidence is usually ill-placed. And yes, in America, that's almost a sin, but I have seen more than one self-confident person overestimate himself I've seen self-confidence become self-centered, even to putting one's name on every building one owns. To become self-involved, thinking that everything is about you. To becoming autocratic and thinking you make up the rules because you're always right. Self-confidence is way overrated morally. Even more, as I pondered those I truly admired through time, the ones I thought were the most exquisite examples of human beings, they were not those who were self-confident, but they were those who were courageous, who served something greater than themselves. The Martin Luther Kings, the Mohandas Gandhis, the Rosa Parkses. And yes, even here in America, we get a glimpse of that because we so honor the soldier who defends the nation and is willing to lose his or her life, the firefighter for facing dangers to save lives. Even the founders and framers have an element of this as people who are looking to the future, not just for themselves. Do we not all feel a certain thrill when we sing those words from Catherine Lee Bates, who more than self their country loved? As much as we admire the self-made and the self-confident, we know that our heroes are those who were courageous for something larger than themselves, who were accountable to something beyond themselves, who gave themselves to something larger than their own agenda. And the reason I think this is important is because I'm learning this more from women than from men. Now I'm going to tell you a very brief story that helps you anchor that in me. November 5th, 1925. Is that Guy Fawkes Day? November the 5th of November? Yeah. That's the day my father was born. November the 5th, 1925. And my grandmother burst an artery on the delivery table and lived moments beyond the birth of her child. She never saw her son. And I think of that not with grief, but with remembrance and recollection that up until 1925, almost 1% of all pregnant women would die of childbirth-related issues, whether it was preeclampsia, eclampsia, whether it was puerperal fever, whether it was placenta abruptio. 1% of women die as a result of giving birth. Now, if you think that's a low number, consider how many billions of dollars we spend preventing terrorism and crime, for which the risk is so much more infinitesimal, and you will get a grasp on how much courage it takes just to have two X chromosomes in this life. That being a woman at every level is more dangerous. At every level is more risky, and never more so than in giving life. From what I can tell, women have faced odds of death far higher than most men ever will. And so where do they find the courage? Why do they go through all that? It ain't the technology, friends. More than one woman has said to me that their child was worth their life. Now, I'm not indicting those who don't have children or choose not to. But that sense of being connected to something beyond yourself is a physical reality that men can never quite appreciate. In fact, I'm a little jealous. Their strength was in something beyond themselves, more than self. Their children love, not only theirs, but those of others. More than self, their family loves, not only theirs, but others. Dare I be obvious that what bestows courage is a silly thing that Maya Angelou talked about. Love coming down from its high temple and calling us out of our shell of loneliness to be alive. The love of something more than self. That's where courage comes from. Ira Gershwin had a problem. You should know that. Because you see, his brother George had written that beautiful music, but they had not finished the lyrics, and they did not quite know what to do with it, because George died of cancer before the song was done. It was his last composition, by the way. And so Ira had to come up with words. Did you hear the words? They're from a brother to a brother. It was not romantic love. It was the love of something beyond yourself to which you are insolubly connected, and a sense that that love can outlast anything. In time, the Rockies may crumble, Gibraltar may tumble. That's outrageous. That'll take millions of years. But no, love outlasts even that. What a bold statement. Ira Gershwin is better than a psalmist. It is a confession of faith in love itself. Simple, direct, courageous. The sense that many a mother in waiting has had, the sense that many a spouse has had. Yes, indeed. The things we think that matter, fame and fortune, power and glory, they are only made of clay. We find courage, though, in what we love that lies beyond us. In those things that we beget with our bodies, those things we come to love with our hearts, and those things alone give us the true courage to be present in the world. So do not look within, look without. Seek that which has a claim upon your heart. Because we know that in time the Rockies may crumble, Gibraltar may tumble. They're only made of clay, but love, yes. Love is here to stay. And it makes us courageous in the doing. May these words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be found true in thy sight, thou who art my rock and my Redeemer. Let's sing the words of Hildegard of Bingen and give it that fiery force that she talks about. It is number 27 in your hymn book. Says Mary Oliver, you must be able to do three things: to love what is mortal and hold it against your bones, knowing your own life depends on it, and when the time comes to let it go, knowing it will fly outward and return as the days themselves return, because this and every day is the day which the Lord has made. Let us ever rejoice and be glad in it. Amen and amen.